I'm going to make the case in this video for using a calorie counting app for a period of time. Not forever, because that would be mental. Whether you're trying to lose weight or gain weight or keep your weight the same but improve the quality of what you're eating, by far the easiest way of doing that is using one of these apps on your phone for a period of time. It really is. I'm not going to get into which apps do what because I can send you a link to an article that compares them all. There's people on YouTube who've made videos comparing the different features, but as far as I can see, all of them in their free versions do enough for what you need for the period of time that you need it. So it doesn't really matter. The grandfather in these apps is MyFitnessPal. You may have already used it. I certainly used it for a long period of time. Haven't done for ages. Logged in yesterday and it still remembers all of my recipes from 10 years ago. What I can't remember is whether I still make that recipe in the same way. It does have a huge database of foods, especially pre-made foods. So there's a good chance if you're buying something in a mainstream supermarket, you'll be able to scan the barcode and it will be able to pull up the nutritional information of that particular product. Some of the others, which are based in the US, don't necessarily have that same option. So this is probably why it tends to come to the top. It has now got very cluttered with additional features, adverts coming out of your ears. It's pretty tedious to use compared to how it was a decade ago, but it still will get the job done. With all of these apps, if you want to calculate the nutritional information of something that you're making, let's say a chili, for example, you need to put in the amount of meat you're using and then all the other ingredients, and then it will give you the nutritional information for the whole pan. You then have to kind of make an estimate of the portion size, and yes, that's a bit tedious. It does remember it, like I've said, for 10 years or so, but it can get a little bit annoying. You don't necessarily need to go to that full extent. It may be that you just want to use it in order to get a sense of what your average portion of rice or pasta actually equates to in terms of the number of carbohydrates. Whether you weigh it dry, whether you weigh it cooked, it's got those options within it. It can be really helpful and really eye-opening, and you can start to see how just reducing the portion size of some of those starches, which are delicious and tasty and fill us up, can start to make a difference. It will give you reasonably reliable information about the protein content of a chicken breast, chicken thighs, an average size of steak. Those kind of things are really useful. And once you've got that information, it tends to land in your brain and you don't need to keep going over it. If you like a particular breakfast, and don't start me on cereal, and the nutritional information on a box of cereal relates to a portion size that would probably feed a 2-year-old, but say you make porridge for breakfast, weighing out the amount of oats that you tend to use and recognising them in terms of the proportion of the bowl that they fill, again, you only need to do that once or twice and then you've got that information logged. So you can see that just using it over a couple of weeks can really help to establish what your baselines are and where perhaps you might need to be going wrong. And most people will find this really eye-opening. Whenever I meet somebody in surgery who's lost a significant amount of weight and been able to keep it off, I always want to know, what do they do now that they didn't do before, or what do they not do now? And a surprising amount of people will say, I just reduced my portion size. And most of them, to be fair, haven't done it using a calorie tracking app. They've done it by feel and by guesswork. And so you can do it without this level of information, but it's a bit like trying to get to a destination that you once went to, mostly relying on memory and feeling your way, as opposed to using a map or using a sat nav. Now, I talk a lot about protein, and there will be a separate video on protein, but getting a handle on how much protein you're taking in every day is quite difficult if you don't know what the protein content is in a can of tuna, in a portion of high protein yogurt. Some of them will have them on the labels, but a chicken breast isn't going to tell you what the nutritional information is, nor are a couple of strips of lean bacon, that kind of thing. So again, this is where using an app to start to collect that data for the types of foods that you like to eat regularly can be really, really helpful. You won't need this forever. In fact, I'd discourage you from using it too much because, as I've already said, the accuracy of some nutritional information is very questionable. But we're using this as a more detailed guide than just winging it, but hopefully not getting into the weeds with the calories in this and the calories in that and becoming all obsessional about it, which is not somewhere that we want to go. So try it out. Don't subscribe or pay for any of them. The free versions are all you need. Start with MyFitnessPal if you want to. If you've never used one of these apps and you're wondering what it looks like, keep watching. I've just included a little demonstration of MyFitnessPal, how it looks on the laptop. If you've used them before, you know what you're doing. Crack on. So here's an example of how it would look if you're using it on the laptop. You know, it's actually easier in the app, to be honest, but there's your breakfast. It will remember some of your favourite things or recent things. You can equally look on frequent here. So let's look for 40 grams of dry oats. You just add that. You'd obviously add the milk. You'd add the same for dinner. Look for frequent. Let's just say I did once upon a time calculate a portion of bolognese. You can put that in. So what it gives you is this running total of not only calories, but how you're doing on protein, fat and carbs, which are the main things that you really need. You don't need all the other additional features, and you don't need 20 million adverts for Jet2 holidays.